to the channel, welcome to another video. It's that time of the weekend, it's Premier League predictions time. Another round of exciting and intriguing Premier League encounters are almost upon us this weekend. And of course, this is the video where I talk about the games, analyse them, and of course, give my predictions on how I think each and every single game will turn out this weekend. Of course, before we get into all of that, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you are new. Both things are always and forever be greatly appreciated to the channel. And of course, if you can, get involved in the comments section as well. I'd love to know your thoughts, comments, opinions, feelings in regards to every single game coming up this weekend. But most of all, of course, I want to see your predictions. Where would a predictions video be without predictions after all? So please do get involved, use and abuse that comment section. Give me your predictions on how you think each and every single game will turn out this weekend. Would love to hear from you all on that. And now that everything like that is out the way and done with, let's get on with the video. Let's kick things off with Saturday's lunchtime kickoff at Villa Park. It sees Aston Villa take on Manchester City. And despite City's recent run of really bad form, I've gone with a 1-1 draw here. Now, Villa, of course, on their day can be a very tough nut to crack. We know that attacking-wise, they have plenty of options that can give City some food for thought. And as we've seen in recent games, City's defence are at 6s and 7s half the time. They're in a right mess right now. They're not playing well. They're second-guessing themselves. They look nervous every time the ball gets in and around any one of their defenders. Kyle Walker is a liability. Their centre-back pairing look like they're complete strangers. Their midfield is lacking control. And even their attack has somewhat been a little bit blunt and disappointing in recent times. So Aston Villa could really fancy their chances here of really getting something in this game. Alternatively, this could be a game which Manchester City actually turn up in. But one win in 11 games is no longer some sort of fantasy. It's no longer some sort of dream that rival fans have dreamt for the past several years that Manchester City would be on. It is in fact a reality. It is in fact a real stat. One win in 11 games for Manchester City is, well, to put it in an understatement type of way, obviously not good enough. But of course, this could be a game in which City could turn things around. We know they have the capabilities, potential, and of course the talent and quality to do so. But alternatively, Villa are no pushovers, and especially at Villa Park, if Villa get up for this one, they really could add more insult to injury, really rub some more salt into that gaping wound of Manchester City. And of course, Villa should really be smelling blood here. They really should. This is a very vulnerable Manchester City side that Villa can certainly get the better of in this game. I'm going with Villa and City to share the points, but honestly, I would not be surprised whichever way the result goes in this one. Next up, Brentford taking on Nottingham Forest, and I've gone with a 2-1 win to Brentford. Now, of course, this is an awkward game to call. We know that Brentford on their day can be very difficult to beat, but we also know that both sides have been pretty good this season, and especially Nottingham Forest, who are seemingly flying high right now. 3-2 win over United a couple of weeks ago. Last weekend, a big win over Aston Villa, coming from behind very late on to secure the victory. Brentford looking to bounce back from their London derby of sorts defeat against Chelsea. But we know that with the likes of Visser and Mbeumo in their team, they will always have a chance in the firepower department of getting something from any game. It's all going to be about whether they settle defensively. It's all about whether or not they can keep Chris Wood quiet or not. It's all going to be about whether or not the Forest midfield can work in tandem with each other, which they have done for most of this season, and whether or not Brentford have their own midfield to try and counter that. This one could be a very underrated game this weekend, one that I'm actually looking forward to seeing how this one plays out. I've gone with Forest to win based on recent form, but I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if Brentford do get something from this game, especially given the fact that they are the home team. But in saying that, I've gone with Forest to win. We shall see how this one plays out, but yeah, Forest to win. Bit more in the firepower and midfield department is why I have tipped the scales in Nuno Espirito Santo's side favour. Next up, Ipswich against Newcastle, and I've gone with a 3-1 win to Newcastle. Now, this could easily be a banana skin for Newcastle to slip up on, because we know that over the course of this season so far, there have been a fair few games like this in which Newcastle have gone into them heavy favourites that they've slipped up in. This one could be no exception, but I think with the current form of the likes of Alexander Isak in particular, I think that Newcastle will get the job done, will get the 3 points, and will move on from this game with their form, or recent form, should I say, heading in a positive direction. That's not to say that Ipswich can't get something from this game, being the home side. If they really make that home side a fortress, if they really kind of sit deep and kind of try and be disciplined and solid at the back, maybe they could frustrate Newcastle and get something on the counter. They picked up a big win last weekend against Ipswich, as they obviously continue their fight against potential relegation. This one, though, there's a bit more quality for them to focus on, with all due respect to Wolves, of course. But yes, a bit more quality for them to focus on in this one. A bit more star power in there as well. And unfortunately for Ipswich, I just see the Magpies getting that win that they desperately need. Newcastle to win by 3-1 is what I have gone for in this game. Next up, West Ham 1, Brighton 1 is what I have gone for in this one. It's very difficult to call this one. We know that obviously Julian Lopetegui is under increasing pressure at West Ham to kind of turn around his side's form. A point on Monday night against Bournemouth. Not a bad result considering how well Bournemouth have performed this season, but still not great. They need to start turning these draws into wins. And against the Brighton side, who haven't exactly had the best run of form in recent games, they really could fancy their chances here. Brighton obviously lost 3-1, quite humiliatingly, in fact, to Crystal Palace, of course, on Sunday. They'll obviously be looking and demanding for a return and a fight back and some sort of redemption this week. But whether they'll get it against the West Ham side under increasing pressure, we don't know. We'll obviously have to wait and see. This game really could be anything, because as we know, Brighton have the talent and quality to turn things around in the blink of an eye. West Ham, on paper, do have a very strong side in most areas, but it's all about whether or not that strong side is actually going to come to fruition or not in this game, because it hasn't for the most part of this season. So it's going to be very intriguing to find out who turns up in this game, what turns up in this game, and how this game is going to play out before our very eyes Saturday afternoon. I've gone 1-1. Genuinely not convinced or happy about this prediction, but like I said, this game could go any which way. Could be anything and any which way, but I'm going to call it down the middle, go 1-1. Next up, Crystal Palace taking on Arsenal, and I've gone with a 2-1 win to the Gunners. Now, of course, Arsenal have lost their way a little bit in the past couple of games, drawing their last two to the likes of Fulham and Everton. And this one really does, again, bring up that sort of banana skin feel to it yet again. If Palace haven't been amazing this season, they've been a bit hit and miss. They haven't exactly kicked on from where we thought they would towards the end of the last campaign. But that's not to say that they don't come without their challenges, and they don't come without their problems that they can cause for other teams. And Arsenal are going to be no exception to that. We know that Palace on their day can give anyone a good run for their money, and Arsenal are probably going to be no exception. Palace, decent side. Palace, strong. They can be very well disciplined when they want to be. And that's going to be a way that they can frustrate Arsenal. Arsenal have carried this title recently of set-piece kings. They can only score from set pieces. Well, if Palace sit back, they're well disciplined, they're strong defensively, they're like a well-oiled machine, they can certainly frustrate Arsenal from open play. And then it's all about whether or not they can win the first header from a corner and make sure that they defend it properly. If they can do that, maybe they are already halfway there to getting something from this game. It isn't out of the realms of possibility for Palace to not come out with anything from this. However, in saying all of that, I still think Arsenal do have the individual talent, the quality, to get to get the win here that they desperately need. They obviously do need a win, so not anything short of that is going to be completely unacceptable for them, even if it is away from home against a Crystal Palace side who we know can be awkward on their day. I've gone with Arsenal to win. I feel like they have the individual quality, the individual talent, and obviously they have set pieces in their back pocket should they obviously require it, which I think, again, will be another big talking point and a big highlight of this game. Not to say Palace can't deal with that, but I just think Arsenal will have just a bit more in the tank than what Palace do to get over the line. Should make for interesting viewing, though, for our Saturday evening's entertainment. Moving on to Sunday, and first up we're at Goodison Park for Everton against Chelsea, and I've gone with a 2-0 win to the high-flying Chelsea. This one should be one of the more favourable games to call this week, with Chelsea being the overwhelming favourites, even if they are away from home. But at the same time, you can never really rule out anything from Everton. They picked up obviously a good point last weekend as Arsenal, as we previously discussed. But, again, it's about consistency as far as what Sean Dyche's side are concerned. And whether or not they can go another 90 minutes by trying to keep out Chelsea as much as possible. And whether or not they can actually do some damage at the other end. In my personal opinion, although Chelsea do have their frailties at the back, and although that Everton have the possibility to take something from like a set piece, or maybe even on the counter-attack, I just think Chelsea will have enough about them to overpower them in the midfield, control the game, and then with their superior finishing, go on to win the game rather fairly comfortably, I would imagine. I've gone 2-0 to Chelsea. Could be more, could be a little less. Either way, Chelsea to win should be nailed on, in my opinion. Next up, moving on to Craven Cottage, where Fulham will be taking on managerless Southampton. Now, at the time of recording, Southampton are managerless, obviously sacking their previous manager in the aftermath of their absolute hammering that they took at Tottenham last Sunday. 5-0 to Spurs, it finished there, and the manager was sacked. I'm saying the manager because I genuinely can't remember his frigging name. That's really bad of me. I do apologise, but the name has just completely slipped at the time of recording, so I'm just going to move on. Fulham been very strong this season. They've actually picked up a few decent points in recent weeks. The last one being against Liverpool at Anfield last Saturday. So they're going pretty strong, and they would obviously fancy their chances of winning this one against their, at the time of recording, managerless Southampton side, who are, of course, rock bottom of the table, not exactly in the best of form, and are there for the taking. The lack of a manager does sort of throw a little bit of a curveball in this scenario. Will the players get up for this one? Will they try and show a bit more fight than they have done in previous times? Will Fulham take their eye off the ball and think the game is already won before a ball is even kicked? Those are some of the factors that could be considered for this one. So it's going to be very intriguing to find out what kind of teams turn up on Sunday in this one. I've gone with Fulham to win though. I've gone with the favourites. I've gone with the recent form. But again, it started the rounds a possibility for Southampton to get something from this, of course. But at the same time, I'm still going to back the favourites. 3-1 to Fulham. They should have a field day in front of goal, especially if Southampton's form mentality is on the floor right now. Next, we're off to the King Power Stadium for Leicester, taking on another currently managerless team in Wolves. Now, of course, that might change. There is a lot of talk that Wolves are in the process of appointing their new manager. Whether or not they'll get it approved and done by before this game obviously remains to be seen, but we shall see on that. Either way, it does seem likely that the new manager will be announced in some way, shape or form. Whether or not he will take over this game remains to be seen, but that could work in Wolves' favour. Having an extra pair of eyes on this fixture could obviously mean that there are big opportunities to be awaited for some of these players. They could obviously, like I say, turn up in this one. They could obviously have a bit to prove, which could obviously turn their performance up a few notches, and that could spell bad news for Leicester, who of course are going through teething problems under their new manager of Ruud van Nistelrooy, of course. So it's going to be a very intriguing battle, this one. Can't wait to see how this one plays out between a Leicester City side who are still finding their way under their new manager and a Wolves side who have recently dismissed theirs and are in the process of bringing in a new one, which has made it a little bit more difficult to predict than most games. I've called it down the middle. I'd say that individually, I'd probably give the edge to Wolves in this one. I would probably say that Wolves may just about get over the line. We have seen over the course of the past several weeks that they do have the capabilities to win these types of games. The likes of Matheus Cunha and Strad Larsen up front certainly have enough quality in themselves to go on and be match winners in this one. But I'm calling it down the middle. I think Ruud van Nistelrooy will pick up a point, and I think that this game will end with the shares being spoiled. So, yeah, I've gone 1-1 in this one. Penultimate game on this list, we'll see Manchester United take on Bournemouth at Old Trafford, a United side that will be still flying high out of their 2-1 win over Manchester City in the Manchester derby last Sunday. But they're coming up against a Bournemouth side who can be awkward and have been very, very good this season so far. They play some really good stuff. Sometimes their finishing has a little left to be desired, but for the most part, they play some excellent football. They've got some really good players in there, and they can be a thorn in the side of anyone. And if memory serves me correctly, I don't know whether it was at Old Trafford or whether it was at the Vitality. Didn't these two teams play each other last year at this stage, around about the same date? And didn't Bournemouth win 3-0? Now, of course, a lot has changed since then. I'm not saying history's going to repeat itself or anything like that. Obviously, a lot has changed since then. Erik ten Hag was the manager last year. Ruben Amorim is in charge this year. United are still going through the process of obviously building through a new manager, which is why I've gone 2-2. I think this one could be a very entertaining game. I'm hoping for goals galore in this one. I'll obviously hope and pray that Bournemouth find a way to win, obviously with Man United being a rival and an enemy of mine. But at the same time, I still give United credit, and I think that they can take a lot of positives and a lot of momentum from that win last week against City and maybe carry it over into this game. So it wouldn't surprise me whichever way the result goes on this one, but I'm expecting goals, hopefully, fingers crossed. And I'm hoping that Bournemouth can take something from this game. So I've gone 2-2. I think Bournemouth can definitely do Man United over here. But like I say, it's all about whether or not Bournemouth are going to take their chances and whether or not United are going to be able to break down this Bournemouth side. So a lot riding on that game for both sets of teams. And finally, in what I believe to be the biggest game of this round of fixtures, the main event of this entirety of this entire Premier League weekend, we're at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for, coincidentally, Tottenham taking on Liverpool in a fierce Premier League classic. Now, I've gone 3-1 Liverpool. This is an awkward game. And to use a phrase that I've used a couple of times already in this video, this is a banana skin for Liverpool. Even though they are away from home, I would still consider them the favourites. They've not exactly performed well in the past few games, but this is a big game for them. They've seen their lead at the top of the table be cut, and before this game kicks off, Chelsea are obviously going to be playing, and if they win, they could potentially leapfrog Liverpool for, albeit a good couple of hours before this game finishes, of course, but that will obviously be a big psychological thing. Even at this near enough midway point of the season, we're nearly there at the midway point. Big game for both of these sides. Massive. For Tottenham, we know that obviously they need to perform. They need to obviously show something because they have struggled against the lesser teams in the league. They've not necessarily been too bad against the bigger teams, and of course this is the biggest team it gets so far this season, with them being top of the league. But at the same time, there are frailties there. There are injuries. There are absences that obviously are going to be big for Spurs. So it's all about whether they or not they can club together. Whether or not Postecoglou does change, does adapt to obviously what Liverpool's threats will be. And then for Liverpool, it's all about whether or not they can keep their nerve. Like I say, they dropped points to Fulham last week. They dropped points to Newcastle in their previous game. They haven't performed amazingly in any of those two games, and you can then even include the Girona game and the Champions League sandwich between them. They need to step up their game. They'll have Alexis McAllister back, which will be a massive boost for them. They've obviously got Diogo Jota back, which is going to be huge. Andy Robertson will be back from suspension, so at least they'll have a more natural left back, even though I do have my reservations over him. So it's a massive game, and the reason I've gone 3-1 is because I think there are chances there that Liverpool are going to create that are going to be taken by the likes of Mohamed Salah and Diogo Jota. What the hell was that? That is really bad on my part. Mohamed Salah and Diogo Jota. I really think that those two are going to be key for us in this game. And I just think defensively, we can stop. We can stop Spurs. Not completely, because it's Spurs and the way that they play, they're obviously going to create chances. But I think with who we've got in midfield, I think with who we've got defensively, I do think that we can, for the most part, stop whatever Tottenham are going to try and throw at us. I feel like we can keep quiet the likes of James Maddison. Dejan Kulusevski is brilliant, has been arguably Tottenham's best player all season. He's got an engine, he's got a high work rate, but we can stop him as well. Brennan Johnson down the right against Andy Robertson does scare me a little bit, but at the same time, I do know that if Robertson is smarter than he was last week, I know that Robertson can tuck Brennan Johnson in his pocket for the entirety of the game. And on the right hand side, Trent against Son. Look, he's not the same Son of a few years ago, but he's still very dangerous. And the likes of him do tend to turn up in this kind of fixture as they have done in previous years. So again, it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be an awkward game, but I'm fully backing Liverpool to get the win. I'm fully backing Arne Slot to get his tactics right. I'm fully backing Mohamed Salah to turn up. I'm fully backing Diogo Jota to be lethal in front of goal. I'm backing the midfield to control it. I'm backing the defence to keep Tottenham's attacking options quiet. And I'm backing the best goalkeeper in the world, Alisson Becker, to when he's called upon, prove why I believe he's the best goalkeeper in the world. So I'm going with Liverpool to win. I'm going 3-1 to the Reds. I'm hoping and praying we remain top of the table this weekend. So fingers crossed on that one. And there you have it. Those are the thoughts, comments, opinions, but most of all, of course, predictions on how I think each and every single game will go this weekend in the Premier League. But I want to know what you guys think and feel. Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, feelings, all down below in the comment section. But most of all, of course, give me your predictions, people. Where would a Premier League predictions video be, after all, without predictions? So please do get involved. Use that section. Tell me how you think each and every single game will turn out this weekend. I'm sure it'll make for great and interesting reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you are new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Premier League predictions video. I'll see you and speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Speak to you all again very, very soon.